This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, B'Shus Rosh Yeshiva Shlita. It's a great honor to be here. It's okay, I speak in English, and then, what's your name? Yoni is going to translate. L'targem. So this Shabbos already was Shabbos Mevarchem Elul. I always like to say, the Parsha, if you look at the Parsha carefully, you'll see there's always a connection between the Parsha and the Zman Hashana. In Tanakh, there's a word that's always used to describe Rosh Hashanah, Hayoim. Hayoim. Hayoim Harasaylam. The Zohar HaKadosh says, Atem Nitzavim Hayoim is the Parsha before Rosh Hashanah. In Sefer Iyov, Vayehi Hayoim, Zokt Rashi, Rosh Hashanah. Hayoim is always Rosh Hashanah. So, Rosh Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Elul, Re'ei, Anoichi, Noisein Lefneichem, Hayoim. The Rebbeinu Shalom is shaking us up. See, I'm going to give you Rosh Hashanah. You have to prepare.
O Rav falou que a gente está no Shabbat Mevarchim, Elul, e como em todos os lugares, a gente vê citou vários lugares que fala, a Torá se refere para Rosh Hashanah como Ayom. Ayom Rosh Hashanah é o dia que é referido como Ayom.
So first I want to share with you one of my favorite pieces in the Sefer Koich Vayar. Koich Vayar is from Rabbi Itzla Petterberg. Rabbi Itzla Petterberg is the Talmud Muvak of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter had three main Talmidim. Alter of Kelm, Rabbi Naftali Amsterdam, and Rabbi Itzla Petterberg. V'haya moine shvachan. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter would say the shvach of his Talmidim. So he would say that the Rabbi Itzla Petterberg is a lamdin. That was his shvach. He wrote Shaus Tshuvas Pri Yitzchak. The Mishnah says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Ba'arba prakim ha'olam nidain, the world is judged 4 times. And the Mishnah says, B'Rosh Hashanah, Kal boi olam oivrim lefanav. Remember the next words? The whole world passes before the Rebbeinu Shalom like what? Kivnei Marain. Kivnei Marain.
Você falou que o Rav, what's the name of the Itzla Petterberg falou que a Mishnah em Rosh Hashanah fala que tem 4 coisas que o mundo é julgado. E aí, what's the first thing? Em Rosh Hashanah as pessoas
4 times a year the world is
tem
judged.
4 vezes no ano que o ano é julgado.
And one of them is Rosh Hashanah.
E uma das coisas é Rosh Hashanah.
And the Mishnah says on Rosh Hashanah everyone passes for Hashem. Kivnei Marain.
Sim, Rosh Hashanah todo mundo passa na frente de Hashem Kivnei Marain.
Okay. Comes the Gemara. The Gemara is on Daf Yud Ches, and the Gemara says, "My Kivnei Marain." What does it mean, Kivnei Marain? So the Gemara brings 3 perushim in Kivnei Marain. The first perush, Hacha Tergama, Kivnei Imrana, like sheep. Like when the shepherd opens up the pen, there's only a narrow exit. So when he opens up the pen, all the sheep can't go out at once. I see in Brazil they have big doors. In America they have little doors. One person goes at a time. In Brazil they have these big doors. Nah. The pen of the sheep was like in America, a little door, and when the sheep go out, they go out one at a time. Okay? That's the first perush. You want to say?
Tem 3 explicações para esse perush. O primeiro é cada passa numa porta estreita, igual carneiros que passam num rebanho que passa por assim a gente passa na frente de Hashem.
Okay. The Gemara brings another pshat. Reish Lakish says, Kivnei Marain, says the Gemara, Kemalois Beis Marain. Kemalois Beis Marain is, there's a guy standing on the top of the mountain. There's a very narrow passageway up the mountain. It's steep on both sides, and you can only go up the mountain what we call single file, one at a time. That's the second shot. Should I say, maybe it's better if I do more, and then
okay.
I'll help you out if you need. The third pshat, the Gemara says, the third pshat is Kemalois Beis David. What does that mean? Kechayolois shel Beis David. Like in the army of David HaMelech's army. What does it mean in David HaMelech's army? The soldiers would fight one at a time. They would go on the line one at a time. And the general would say, Reuven, Levi, Yisachar, Binyamin. And whatever the general would say, that's how you would line up. Basically, we have three different perushim, what it means, kivnei marayin. But the yisoid hadavar is that when we pass before Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, it's one at a time, single file. That's the bottom line.
O segundo chato que ele falou é que cada vai subindo uma montanha que tem um caminho estreito, os dois lados são um penhasco, e aí todo mundo chega no topo da montanha, que é comparado com Hashem, mas ele está falando que cada vai um de cada vez. E o terceiro pshat é como o exército de Davi, que também cada passava um por um na frente. Ele falou, são três pshatim, mas o ponto em comum entre todos eles é que cada vai um por um de cada vez, na frente de Hashem vai passar para o julgamento.
How's your English? Do you understand what I'm saying, or you need the chat? How is it?
Estou entendendo o inglês? Sim. Precisa de tradução?
Eu preciso.
Precisa de tradução?
Bem, pode ser do meu lado.
Fine. So basically, the Mishnah says that on Rosh Hashanah we pass before Hashem kivnei marayin, and the Gemara brings three different perushim. So Rav Itzla Petterberg has a whole group of questions on this Gemara. First of all, when Chazal give a mashal, it's because there's something difficult to understand. You only need to say a mashal if there's something complicated. If it's a simple idea, you don't need a mashal. What is so complicated about the idea that on Rosh Hashanah we pass before Hashem single file? It's not rocket science. It's not a complicated idea. Just say, it's single file. It's like lunch. You go to lunch. You go up, you go out. You take one at a time. We don't need a mashal to explain that on Rosh Hashanah we pass before Hashem single file. Secondly, why do I need three perushim? I need one perush says that it's like sheep going out of a pen. One perush says that it's like going up the mountain to meet someone on the top of the mountain. One perush says it's like soldiers marching in the army. I don't need three different perushim. Just say, give one mashal. Then on Rosh Hashanah we pass before Hashem kivnei marayin. And the third question is, and I'll summarize it again. The third question is, why does Hashem need us to pass before Him single file? Hashem needs us to walk in front of Him single file. Why can't Hashem scan everyone at one time? Computers could do that. Computers could scan a million things simultaneously at the same time. Why does Rebbeinu Shalom have us pass before Him on Rosh Hashanah single file? Why can't He scan everyone beskira achas in one scan? And judge everybody lefi dargasam umadrigasam. So the three questions are: why do I need a mashal? Why do I need three mashalim? And why does Hashem do it that way?
Ele falou que o Rav perguntou sobre isso. Uma, por que a gente precisa de mashal? Que coisas complicadas precisam de mashal para ser explicado. Mas isso, a princípio, é uma coisa muito simples. Não tem porquê ter uma mashal para explicar. Segunda pergunta...
Que cada passa sozinho.
Isso, cada um... Segunda pergunta, por que precisa de três mashalim? Se todos falam o mesmo ponto, que é cada um de cada vez, por quê? Terceira pergunta, por que Hashem faz um de cada vez? Faz todo mundo junto, e Hashem consegue muito bem jogar cada um por si, não precisa cada um de cada vez.
Really? Very good.
Yeah, very good.
Very good. All right, Be'ezus Hashem. Lahagdol Torah Ladiyar. So we begin with a very important Gemara. The Gemara says that when Hashem judges on Rosh Hashanah, He first judges the Melech, v'achar kach ha'am. First Hashem judges the king, and then He judges the people. So the Gemara asks why. One of the answers the Gemara gives is because mikama deleifush charoin af. Before the anger of Hashem starts to flare, to burn. What does that mean? It seems from this Gemara that when the Rebbeinu Shalom judges us on Rosh Hashanah, He judges us like a dayan, like a judge of Basar V'Dam. A dayan of Basar V'Dam. Let's say he starts off the morning and he has to judge 50 cases. So in the morning, he just ate breakfast, he just had a good night's sleep, he's in a good mood. So the first guy, he judges Barachamim. The second guy, B'chesed. By the end of the day, the judge is sick and tired, he's fed up, he's angry, he's hungry, he's tired. How many people are going to sin against him today? The people at the end of the day, they get a raw deal. You know, raw deal? They get a judgment more b'midas hadin than b'midas rachamim. So therefore, the Gemara says, Hashem judges the king first when the king, so to speak, is still in a pleasant mood, so that the king has a more merciful judgment. So that's the reason why Hashem judges the king first. So from this Gemara, we see a very important principle, that to have a successful din on Rosh Hashanah, it's key to get to the front of the line. Because if you get to the front of the line, you'll be judged more barachamim than if you're judged later in the day.
Então, ele falou que a Gemara explica que Hashem julga as pessoas em Rosh Hashanah como se fosse um rei Basar Vadam, que um rei, normalmente, tipo, uma pessoa, um juiz que ele vai julgar, vai vindo uma pessoa de manhã, vai indo um por um, ele consegue fazer o julgamento direito, só que chega no fim do dia, ele já está sem paciência e faz o último que ia ser julgado, o julgamento vai ser horrível, porque ele vai estar com fome, vai estar estressado, tudo que já aconteceu o dia inteiro. Ele falou que em Rosh Hashanah, Hashem é como se fosse um rei Basar Vadam, que ele vai julgar a gente igual a um rei. Então, para não ser um julgamento diferente do outro, ele faz um por um e não todo mundo de uma vez, e vai ser, até o último ser julgado vai ser...
Para os primeiros, os primeiros que vão ser julgados, a pergunta foi por que tem que ser um por um? Pode ser todo mundo junto. Assim, os primeiros que vão ser julgados é um minhá. O julgamento vai ser mais favoritário do que os últimos.
Okay. So, the first thing is, why does Hashem judge us like a melech basar v'dam? Why doesn't Hashem judge us like the melech malchei amlachim, like the kol yachal? Says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, this is a very important nekuda. The Ribbon Shalom knows that we are basar v'dam, and we have to have a connection to Hashem in a real way. The Ribbon Shalom wants us to relate to Him, to think about Him, to feel about Him, a real hargasha chushes. We have to feel the Ribbon Shalom is a melech, and the only type of melech we understand is a melech basar v'dam. So the Ribbon Shalom wants us to relate to Him as if He would be a melech basar v'dam, and this is how the din works. The din of Shamayim, malchusa deshmaya ke'ein malchusa da'ara. That's how the din works on Rosh Hashanah. So says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, the three Mishalim of the Gemara are not here to teach me the nekuda that Hashem judges us on Rosh Hashanah single file. It's Pasha that Hashem judges us single file. I don't need a mashal to learn and to understand that Hashem judges us one by one. The purpose of the Mishalim is three different ways of how to get to the front of the line in the din of Rosh Hashanah. Not to teach that Hashem judges us single file, zeh pashut. The teaching, the message of the three Mishalim is, what could we do to get to the front of the line so that we're judged when Hashem, so to speak, is in a pleasant mood, mekame deleifush charoinav.
Então ele explicou que é claro que Hashem consegue julgar cada um por si, mesmo se for todo mundo junto. Mas todo o ponto é, como ele falou antes, que tem que tentar cada um ser o primeiro da fila para ser na teoria o melhor julgamento. E ele falou que Hashem, em Rosh Hashanah, ele faz como se fosse que ele é Basar Vadam para a gente ter um julgamento real, para a gente conseguir sentir o julgamento realmente como é, e não uma coisa muito superficial. Então ele falou que os três Mashalim realmente não precisa por Hashem consegue julgar da forma que for. A questão é como a gente, são coisas para simbolizar para nós mesmos, como a gente faz para a gente poder ficar na frente da linha, ser o primeiro da fila, para poder receber o melhor julgamento.
Okay. So what are the three ways to get to the front of the line? There are two ways I could say this. I see your B'nai Torah, you understand. I'm going to say it the higher way. There's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem opens up 3 books. Tzadikim nechtavim nechtam la'alter l'chaim. The tzadikim, they're written and inscribed for life. The Rasham nechtavim nechtamim lemisa. Beinonim tluyim v'oimdem. Im zachu, they're zoicha l'chaim. In lo zachu, chas Hashem the other way. The Rambam learns the Gemara Kipshutai. The Rambam says, what are Beinonim? Says the Rambam, if tzadikim means somebody who has one more mitzvah than Avera, and Rasha means someone who has one more Avera than mitzvah, Beinonim is Kipshutai, 50-50. 50-50. That's how the din works on Rosh Hashanah. That's the Rambam. The Ran asks on the Rambam, look around the world, Masim b'chol yoim. Yesh tzaddik nevad b'tzidkai. Sometimes you see a tzaddik, and he doesn't live. Sometimes you see a Rasha, and the Rasha is successful. Says the Ran, tzaddik is not kipshutai, and Rasha is not kipshutai. Tzaddik doesn't mean someone who has one more mitzvah than Avera, and Rasha doesn't mean someone who has one more Avera than mitzvah. Tzaddik is bedin ka'amar. Tzaddik bedin. What does that mean, tzaddik bedin? It means you could have someone who has 100 times more mitzvahs than Averos, and Hashem decided they're not going to live. So that person, even though he's really a tzaddik, he lost the case. So he's Rasha B'din. Rasha B'din means he's really a tzaddik, but he lost the case. He's guilty on Rosh Hashanah. Or you could have somebody who has many, many more Averos than mitzvahs. So he's really a Rasha, but the Rebbeinu Shem, he's tzaddik B'din. He won the case. Why? Kachi Hamida. V'chanoisi es asher achayin, v'richamti es asher arachim. There's a hanhaga of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tzaddik v'raloi, rasha v'toiv loi. That's how the Ran learns the Gemara. So listen carefully. The Rambam learns the Gemara kipshutai. Tzaddik means more mitzvahs than averos. Rasha means more averos than mitzvahs. Beinani is exactly 50-50. The Ran says, no, clearly it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes someone who is very righteous might not win the court case on Rosh Hashanah, and vice versa. Tzaddik just means someone who Hashem decided they're going to live. Rasha means someone who Hashem decided they won't. Says Rav Itzla Petterberg, something very interesting. We paskin like the Rambam. The halacha karambam. What does that mean? Ruba de ruba de ruba. The Rebbeinu Shem judges like the Rambam. V'yesh yoytze min haklal, that there's another hanhaga of tzaddik bedin v'rasha bedin. That's what Rizal writes. It's very interesting that in the majority of cases Hashem judges kipshutai like the Rambam, but the Ran is right. There is such a hanhaga.
Então ele começou falando que tem duas formas para explicar os machalim. Como a gente faz para chegar na ser o primeiro da fila. Ele falou que como a gente chega em Torah, ele falou o mais difícil. Ele falou assim, tem uma macroca entre o Rambam e o Ra. A Gemara, como faz para... O que quer dizer tzadik rasha em Rosh Hashanah? O Rambam fala que tzadik é quem tem mais mitzvot, e rasha é quem tem mais averot, e Benoni é quem tem exatamente metade. E aí o Rambam pergunta como assim, não pode ser isso, porque a gente vê que tem muitos tzadikim que morrem, muitos rashem que vivem, depois de Rosh Hashanah. Então ele falou, então como é um dino, o Rambam falou, cada ano, depende de Rosh Hashanah, Hashem decide se o tzadik vai morrer ou vai viver, ou se o rasha vai morrer ou vai viver. E aí o
tzadik quer dizer, foi decidido, quem foi que vai viver?
O tzadik é que foi decidido em Rosh Hashanah que vai viver, e o rasha é que foi decidido que vai morrer.
Mas tem um tzadik, decide que ele vai morrer.
E aí ele falou que o Rav de Pettenburg falou que o psak é anti-você como o Rambam, que o tzadik é conforme o número de mitzvot, mas que ele falou do Rambam. Mas
também é verdade que existem casos que Hashem ele faz diferente. Normalmente mesmo o tzad que tem mais mitzvot sobrevive, quem tem mais averot não sobrevive. Mas existem casos que o Ram tem razão, que é diferente, que é uma exceção, que um tzad que ele pode morrer e o rasha pode sobreviver. O Rambam tem razão e o Ram também tem razão.
Okay. So b'kitzur, let's come to the Tamtzas Hadvarim. The Meshalim of the Gemara of what does it mean kivnei marayin are not telling us that a person is judged single file. It's teaching us how to get to the front of the line. There are 3 ways to get to the front of the line. The first way is kivnei imrana, like sheep. When the door of the pen opens, which sheep goes out first? The biggest, strongest, most powerful sheep will muscle its way, push everybody out, and that sheep will go out first. That's one way to get to the front of the line. You know what that way is? Like the Rambam, if you deserve it. Those who are tzaddikim, those who have more mitzvahs than averos, Hashem will give them a better spot on the line. Pshuto kimashmai. Those who the Rebbeinu Shalom understands are tzaddikim, are powerful, are abirei leiv, the tzaddikim are called abirei leiv, they'll get a better spot on the line. The derech of the Rambam. Another way to get on the front of the line is like the Ran. We don't know. We'll have no idea. Sometimes Hashem will say, this individual, I like this zechus that they have, I'm going to give them a good spot on the line. Why? Nistarei darkei Hashem. We don't understand. So the truth is, neither of these ways are going to do us any good. They're not very helpful. Certainly the approach of the Ran, to say, now, one second, the approach of the Ran is the mashal of the general. When the general says, you go, and then you go, and then you go. Why did the general say first Shimon, and then Zevulun, and then it's random. It's beli tam, nobody knows. Maybe even he doesn't know. He just did it on the spot. That's the hanhaga of what we call Tzadik v'raloi, Rosh of a Toivloi, the hanhaga of the Ran. That's the mashal of Kachayolois based of it. But neither of these ways are going to do us any good. You tell a guy, you know how you get to the front of the line? Have more mitzvahs than averos. You're 11 months too late, Don't tell me that in Elul. Now you're telling me with a month left to Rosh Hashanah, I should get to the front of the line by being a tzaddik gamor? No, that's not a practical eitzah. The eitzah of get to the front of the line because maybe the Rebbeinu Shalom will have a random zechus that he likes. We don't even know what that would be. So neither of these 2 eitzos are very helpful.
Ele falou assim que o primeiro machal, que é dos carneiros, passando no ele falou que é a chutadura, que quando abre a porteira, o mais forte, o mais ágil vai passar primeiro. E esse é o que o Rama fala, quem tem mais mitzvot, ele vai ser o primeiro da fila, ele é o tzadik, quem tem mais averot, que é o que fica para trás, ele é o rasha. E aí ele falou que tem o segundo exemplo, que é o terceiro, na verdade, que é o do general no exército de David. Esse é o Shitaduran, que ele escolhe, você é tzadik, você é rasha, baseado no critério dele. Não, a gente não entende muitas vezes, mas ele decidia isso. Ele falou, nenhum dos dois ajuda a gente. Porque, às vezes você está o ano inteiro fazendo averot, agora você avisa um mês antes de ir ao Shana que eu sou rasha e agora eu preciso mudar, Você falou aí, vai explicar, tem mais um.
But the third mashal is very helpful. The third mashal is Kema'alois Beis Marayin. What does it mean Kema'alois Beis Marayin? You have a mountain with a steep incline, with you can only go up one at a time, single file. So who gets there first? Who gets to go up the mountain first? The strongest? No. Random? No. First come, first serve. Whoever gets to the line first gets up the mountain first. First comes, first serve. Says Rav Itzla Petterberg, who gets judged first on Rosh Hashanah? When that shofar blows on Rosh Chodesh Elul, whoever starts preparing right away, starts thinking about the Yom Hadin, starts thinking about what they could do to prepare themselves for that great day, the earlier you start to get yourself ready, the better spot on the line you get. So Rav Itzla Petterberg would say, the first moment you hear the shofar, by the way, what does the shofar say? No, the shofar talks. What does the shofar say? It says Tekiah. No. It says Shvarim. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says the shofar says one thing. Learn Musar. That's what the shofar says. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter writes in Sefer Or Yisrael, The shofar alone is not going to change a person. It's an alarm clock. If you don't understand an alarm clock, it won't do anything. Sometimes, I was giving a shiur in a different yeshiva, and there was a noise on the loudspeaker. I didn't know it meant that I should stop speaking, so I just continued speaking. If you don't know what the noise means, the noise will have no meaning. You have to know, what does the noise of the shofar tell you? It tells you to prepare for the Yom Hadin. How do you prepare for the Yom Hadin? You learn Mesilas Yesharim, you learn Shari Tshuva, you learn Chayvas Havavos, Avodas HaMosar. You have to work on yourself. That's how we prepare for the Yom Hadin. The sooner you start preparing for Rosh Hashanah, the better spot on the line you get. But I'm here to tell you a trick, because it could be some people already learned this Maimer in the Koich Vayar. So everybody knows. I'm going to give you a mashal. In America, the second Pesach is over, people line up where? Pizza shop. Right? Lo Yaleinu. The pizza shop. Not only that, there are some people that even start coming a little bit too early. There are people who are there now already. They're waiting there now for after Pesach in 6 months. So I'm going to tell you to start preparing for Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh Elul. Maybe people will know. So the secret is, if you start even before Rosh Chodesh Elul. You know what the Sfarim say? Av is Rosh Teivos, Elul ba. Av is Rosh Teivos, Elul is coming. The earlier you start preparing, the better spot on the line you get. Be'ezus Hashem will all be zoiche to Shana Tovim Varechas.
Ele falou que o terceiro jeito, que é o mais a ver com a gente, que é o da montanha. Quem vai, que só tem um caminho para subir, e aí quem chegar primeiro no caminho, ele vai ser o primeiro a chegar no topo da montanha. Então ele falou que esse é o jeito certo de lidar com o Yom Hadin. Tem que começar já se preparar já desde o começo. Ele falou mesmo antes de Rosh Chodesh, antes de Rosh Chodesh Elul, já começar a se preparar para estar no seu primeiro da fila, e assim poder chegar ao primeiro do Din. Ele falou que o shofar fala pra gente estudar Mussar. Ele falou que quando toca o shofar, ele está alertando a gente para começar a acordar e estudar Mussar, e assim chegar a se preparar bem para o Yom Hadin, como é sabido que Av quer dizer Elul ba. Então, desde agora já dá para começar a se preparar para estar lá.
What's the question?
למה הגמרא אומרת משהו שזה לא למעשה, זה לא עצה טובה?
למה הגמרא?
Hagemara masbir lanu sheyesh gimel oifanim how the din operates, how the Rebbeinu Shem runs the din. So the Gemara is telling us there are 3 ways that the Rebbeinu Shem runs the din. 2 of them you may or may not be able to access, but there is yesh pesach tikva. The Gemara is saying there is an oifen that's practical. There's also another oifen. You could try to get more mitzvahs and averos and start already in Chodesh on Beis Gimel Tishrei for the upcoming year. It is possible, but for us now in Chodesh Elul, that's usually when people start thinking about it. The most practical eitzah is the second oifen. If I could just have a few minutes. So, Elul is a very important time for B'nai Torah, B'nai Yeshiva, especially for Bachrim at this age. Really, these are the most important years of your life. These years set the foundation for the rest of your life. I want to share with you a very interesting question of Rabbi Yerucham Levavitz. Rabbi Yerucham asks, it's a very interesting question and even more interesting answer. Rabbi Yerucham asks, we believe there's a concept of Yuridas Hadoros, that Rishonim are greater than Achronim. That the Goinim were greater than the Rishonim, and the Amoraim were greater than the Goinim, and the Tanoim were even greater, and the Nevi'im were even greater. Ask Rabbi Yerucham, what's the Nekuda? Why are Rishonim greater than Achronim? Meaning, what is greater about them? Did they have more Yiras Shamayim? Did they have more lamdos? Did they have more hasmada? Did they have better midos? Like, what is the nekudas? When you're learning and you have a machlokes or the Rambam and Rashba, So you always want to know, what's the nekudas hamachloikis? What's the point of disagreement? What is it about the Rishonim that they were greater than the Achronim? What did they have more of? Is it just they were closer to Sinai? What's the nekuda? Rabbi Yerucham says something incredible. Rabbi Yerucham says, it's not that they had more Yirah Shamayim. And it's not that they were smarter. And it's not that they were more lamdanim. And it's not that they had better midos. Says Rabbi Yerucham, look around the world. Who is successful in this world? Let's say the wealthiest people. Why are they the wealthiest people? They say they have better mazel. No. You can't, this is not a reason that applies in every situation. Like we said, al piroi, if there's a reason, there's always, yotzim naklal. The wealthiest people, they're not the most successful people, they're not the smartest. They're not the most capable. They're not the most creative. Says Rabbi Yerucham, the word is yazama. They have the most ambition. They have the most drive. Meaning, they dream. They have a desire that when they wake up in the morning and when they're young, they think, one day I'm going to be Rothschild. One day I'm going to be Reichman. One day I'm going to be the most successful person. So they're not smarter than anybody else. They're not more creative. They're not more talented. They have a bigger she'ifa for greatness. They have a bigger drive for greatness. Says Rabbi Yerucham, a chidush nifla. You know what the difference between a Rashi and an Achron is? Rashi had a greater she'ifa for gadlus than Achronim. Says Rabbi Yerucham, when you see somebody who has a she'ifa, has a drive to be great, he's made of big stuff. He might not be smarter than anybody. He might not be more creative. He might not be more talented. But the same way that it works in what they call the real world, even though we know what the real world is. There's only one thing that's real. That's how it works in the world of Ruchnias. Says Rabbi Yerucham, the key to Hatzlacha and Ruchnias is you have to wake up in the morning. You say, what's the first thing Yeshiva Bachar has to do? So some people say the first thing is you have to open up the Gemara. No, it's not true. It's not the first thing you have to do. Before you open up the Gemara, you have to get up in the morning and you look at the shelf and you see, the Shas. One day I want to know the Shas. I want to know the Shas. Klar, Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, with Havana. One day I want to know Kol HaTorah Kula. One day I want to be a Talmud Chacham. One day I want to be a Yarei Shamayim like Gedolah Yisrael. One day I want to have Midos Toivos like the Tzaddikim. That's the first avodah of a Yid. Say, really? You're supposed to do that? Where does it say I'm supposed to do that? Says Rabbi Yerucham, this is not a nice thing. This is not a good thing. This is a chiyuv gamor. Chayiv Adam Loimar Masai Yagio Masai Lamasai Avoisai Avraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov. A person's obligated to say, when am I going to be? Now, that means when you wake up in the morning, you don't say, I'm going to try a little bit. No. When you wake up in the morning, you say, when am I going to reach the highest madregos? You can't settle for what we call mediocrity when it comes to what your goals are. Now, it's sometimes a little dangerous because sometimes a person feels bad that, my goals are up here and I'm only over here. It's okay. It doesn't matter where you are. You always have to be sameach b'chalkai at the same time. Even though you're shooting for the stars, you're shooting to be like Moshe Rabbeinu, and whatever you're able to do, you're besimcha that the Rebbeinu Shem gave you the zechus to do even a little bit. But the goal has to be ad l'rakia. You cannot settle. It's very interesting. 2 more minutes? If you look in Rabbeinu Yonah in the Shari Tshuva, Rabbeinu Yonah says something incredible. Rabbeinu Yonah says, in terms of the totem pole of severity, what's the most chamor? Lav sheyish bo misas bezdin. And then lav sheyish bo kares. and then a regular lav sheyesh by masa, and then a lav sheim by masa. And the lowest level is asay. And asay, if somebody violates an asay, there's no punishment in this world. No punishment. Nothing Bezdin could do. Somebody says, I'm not going to put on tefillin. Okay? Nothing Bezdin could do. The Gemara says, you're poishe yisrael begufan, but Bezdin has nothing Bezdin could do. If somebody puts on shatnez and they're warned, you could get malchus. Somebody violates an asay, nothing Bezdin could do. But says Rabbeinu Yoina, on the other hand, Hamalois ha'elyoinois nitnu b'mitzvah saseh. The highest madregos are given b'mitzvah saseh. So if I were to ask you, what are these malos ha'elyoinois? We're not just talking about a regular mitzvah saseh, let's say like tzitzis and lulav and sukkah. We're talking about realms of avodas Hashem. Rabbeinu Yonah lists Yiras Shamayim, Avas Hashem, Kedusha, Teveikos. What would you think are the most important mitzvahs in the Torah? What's the most important mitzvah in the Torah? Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. What's the second most important mitzvah? The Chafetz Chaim writes in many mekayimos, the second most important mitzvah is Gemilas Chasadim. Chafetz Chaim says, whenever Chazal talk about the schar of Talmud Torah, it's always in conjunction with Gemilas Chasadim. Kol ha'oisek b'Torah u'v'Gemilas Chasadim. There are kama v'kama Gemaras and Shas. The Chafetz Chaim even quotes the Gemara in Shabbos that children came into the Beis HaMedrash, that even Miyamois Yeshua ben Nun, we never heard such chidushim. They darshan the Aleph Beis, Gimel Dalid, Aleph Beis, Aleph Bina, Gimel Dalid, Gimel Dalim. Says the Chafetz Chaim, if these two mitzvahs are merumas in the beginning of the Aleph Beis, why? Shezehu ha'ikarim ba'avodas Hashem. So when Rabbeinu Yoina lists all the malois ha'elyonos she'nitnu b'mitzvah saseh, I would have expected that he would list Talmud Torah 1, Gemilas Chasadim 2, and he does. But he lists Talmud Torah 2 and Gemilas Chasadim 3. And what's number 1? You ready for this? Ma'alas habechira, shenemar ubacharta b'chayim. And all the Mefarshim on the Shari Tshuva struggle. What's Rabbeinu Yoina talking about? What's malas habechira? Bechira is not even a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah bechira? The Rambam doesn't say bechira is a mitzvah. Bechira is a reality that a person has free choice. There's no mitzvah of bechira. Look in all the Mefarshim on Shari Tshuva, various perushim. Hashem sent me a matana. Rabbeinu Yoina wrote a sefer called Sharei Ha'avodah. At the very end of Sharei Ha'avodah, Rabbeinu Yoina says like this, that a person, their whole life, always has to have a goal and an ambition and a desire to be like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And ask themselves every day, what did Avraham Avinu do? What did Moshe Rabbeinu do that they were matzah chen b'inei Hashem? And to try to do that also. Says Rabbeinu Yoina, even if you never make it there, you'll be rewarded as if you did. Why? Chishev lasois mitzvah v'lo yasa, ma'alo alav kilu asa. Says Rabbeinu Yoina, ve'al habechira bilvad yikablu schar shenemar ubacharta b'chayim. Rabbeinu Yoina learns there's a new mitzvah that we might not be aware of. It's the mitzvah of chayiv adam loymar masai yagio masai lemasai avoisai. If Chazal say chayiv, I always wondered, where'd they get it from? Where does it say in the Torah you're chayiv? U'makoyroi b'pasuk b'chumash u'bacharta b'chayim. And I would say that even more important than Talmud Torah, meaning more fundamental even. So you tell a young boy, open the Gemara? No. Before you open the Gemara, you need to know, before you open the Gemara, what's your goal over here? I'm in the yeshiva, you're Meiser Nefesh every day. What a young bacher does today, I saw from Rav Gamliel Rabinovich, what we ask a bacher to do today is nothing short than Akedas Yitzchak. Forget what's going on the street. Forget all the garbage, the junk, and Tavas Olam Hazeh, and enter the world of Ruchnias. What you do every day, the Yetzer Hara says, what are you doing already? What you do maybe is more dear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than the Akedah. But you have to know, what am I doing here? What's my goal over here in the yeshiva? Ubacharta b'chayim. Your goal is Ad Rakiah. You know, we put up pictures of Gedolah Yisrael, of tzaddikim. For what? It's a decoration? Is it like Noi Sukkah? Not Noi Sukkah. That's Avodas HaYeshiva. Masai yagiu masai lemasai avoisai. That's the main job. Before you open up in your Gemara in the morning, say, Ribbon Shalom, help me understand your Torah, help me elevate myself, help me come closer to you. Ad Rakiah, please give me siyata d'shmaya. I would like to shoot for the stars. And be'ezus Hashem, says Rabbi Meir, Hashem will help us achieve lemala mehasaga seino. That's how Shari Tshuva opens up. That when a person has the right goals, the Rebbe Hashem will help us achieve even more than our physical and limited abilities. So I thank you very much for allowing me to be mechazik myself, and be'ezus Hashem, we should all be zoicha to Shana Mevayreches and Siyata D'Shmaya in B'chol Limudenu. Thank you very much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.